"Get out of my store! We don't serve people like you," the woman shouted, loud enough for everyone in the fancy boutique to hear. All eyes turned. The music stopped. The whispers went quiet. A tall black man stood calmly beside a glass display of luxury watches. He didn't move. He didn't speak right away, but his face showed pain and disappointment. He had only asked a question, just asked to see a watch, but the store owner had stormed out and yelled at him like he didn't belong. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know that the man she just insulted was not only a customer, but the owner of the entire chain of luxury stores, including hers. He had come in disguise, in plain clothes, to see how customers were treated when no one knew who they were. And now he had his answer. Instead of walking out, he slowly reached into his jacket pocket. "You might want to take a closer look at this," he said quietly. He held out a sleek black card. The store owner grabbed it with a frown until she read the name. Elijah Brooks, CEO, Luxury International. Her mouth dropped open. The sales staff gasped. Everyone froze. Then Elijah turned, walked toward the door, and made a call. "Yes, this is Elijah. I was just kicked out of one of our stores. Begin the leadership changes immediately." He hung up and walked out. But that was just the beginning. Earlier that day, Elijah Brooks zipped up a plain old hoodie and pulled on some jeans with a rip at the knee. His shoes were worn out, and his baseball cap was low over his eyes. He didn't look like a billionaire. He didn't want to. Elijah was the founder and CEO of Luxury, one of the most successful luxury retail companies in the country. His stores sold watches, suits, jewelry, and handbags to the richest people in the world. But Elijah didn't come from wealth. He came from the kind of neighborhood where your smile mattered more than your shoes. He worked his way up with nothing but smarts, grit, and a dream. Lately, he had heard some troubling rumors. Some of his store employees were treating black customers and other people of color unfairly, acting cold, following them around, or ignoring them completely. Elijah wanted to see it for himself. So today, he went undercover. He picked one of the biggest and busiest luxury stores in the city, right in the fancy downtown district. The place had tall glass windows, gold signs, and guards at the door. Inside, everything gleamed. Music played softly, and the air smelled like expensive perfume. Elijah stepped in quietly, just behind a white couple wearing designer clothes. The staff smiled at the couple, offered them champagne, and called them sir and ma'am. Elijah, just steps behind them, got nothing. No greeting, not even a glance. He wandered through the store, stopping at a case full of rare watches. 10 minutes passed. No one came to help. He turned to one employee, a young woman with a sharp black suit. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Could you tell me more about this watch?" She looked at him like he'd asked for a favor. "Those are expensive," she said. Then she turned away. He waited a little longer, hoping someone else would step in. But then came the moment that changed everything. From the back room walked Linda Harrow, the store's regional director. She was tall, in her 50s, with silver blonde hair and expensive heels that clicked loudly on the floor. She took one look at Elijah and frowned. "Is there a problem here?" she asked coldly. "I was just asking about this watch," Elijah said. She folded her arms. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Elijah said. "Well," she said slowly, "we don't usually get customers who wear hoodies. You might want to try another store." "Excuse me?" Elijah said, trying to stay calm. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave," she said. "Right now." People turned. Some stopped shopping. A mother clutched her purse. A man took out his phone, recording. "You're making others uncomfortable," Linda added. Elijah looked her in the eye. "Is that how you treat all your customers?" I treat real customers with respect, she said. He gave her one last chance. Are you sure about this? I'm very sure, she said. Then he reached into his coat and took out his card. That's when everything changed. Linda read the name. Her mouth moved, but no words came. One employee whispered, "That's the CEO." Elijah didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just spoke, clearly and calmly. This store doesn't just need better service. It needs a better heart. I came here today to see if the rumors were true, and I got my answer. He walked toward the door and made a phone call that would change many lives. And outside the store, a small crowd began to gather. They had seen it all. But Elijah was just getting started. The next morning, the city streets buzzed like usual, but inside the towering glass building of Luxore International, silence filled the top floor. Elijah Brooks sat at the head of a long, polished conference table. Around him were the company's top regional managers, legal advisors, and HR directors. Most of them had heard about what happened the day before, but none were prepared for what they were about to see. He tapped a remote. A large screen lit up with security footage from the store. Everyone watched silently as Elijah appeared on the screen in his worn hoodie. They saw him walking the floor, being ignored, being looked at with suspicion. Then came Linda Harrow, arms crossed, face sharp. They watched her kick him out. The video ended on the moment Linda read his business card and turned pale. Nobody spoke. Some shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Elijah leaned forward. "This isn't just about one store," he said. "This is about a culture that's been allowed to grow in the dark. How many others were treated like this, without cameras, without a card to prove they mattered?" He paused. "Linda Harrow has been removed from her position, effective immediately." Heads nodded slowly. Some looked down. A few looked nervous. "But removing one person doesn't fix a broken system," Elijah continued. "We need to change how we see people, not just how they look, but how we value them. Starting today, we're rebuilding our company culture from the inside out." He turned to the head of HR. "I want new training protocols in place within the week, and I want our store managers evaluated not just by sales, but by how customers of all backgrounds are treated." After the meeting, Elijah stepped out onto the rooftop terrace. The sky was overcast, but the air felt clean. "Good job in there," said a voice behind him. It was Jasmine Chen, the company's head of employee training. She had been with Luxore for 6 years, and she had spoken up more than once about quiet discrimination inside some stores. "That video will wake people up," she said. "But they're watching you now, every move." "Let them watch," Elijah said. "I've got nothing to hide." Back at the boutique store, the mood had changed. Staff were whispering. Some were scared for their jobs. Others were quietly relieved. One of them, Marcus, was among the relieved. Marcus had worked there for over a year. He was one of the only black employees. He had seen things. He had heard the snide comments. He had watched white customers get all the attention while others were ignored, or worse, followed around like thieves. He had wanted to quit more than once, but something told him to stay. Now he was glad he did. He didn't know that Elijah had noticed him on that first visit, how he had looked uncomfortable when Linda yelled, how he had stood silently but didn't join in. Elijah had seen that spark of honesty in Marcus's eyes. The next day, Marcus got a call from corporate. "You've been promoted," the voice said. "Temporary assistant manager, starting immediately." Elijah himself approved it. Marcus nearly dropped the phone. "What, me?" he asked. "You stood out," the caller said. "We need people like you leading now." The next morning, Marcus arrived early, wearing his best suit. He stood by the door, letting in customers. He smiled, he helped, he showed kindness. He didn't treat anyone different based on what they wore or how they looked. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. That afternoon, just before closing, Elijah returned. This time, he wasn't alone. A small camera crew followed him, filming for a documentary about racism in retail spaces. Alongside him were Jasmine and Marcus. Customers looked on curiously. Employees stood up straighter. Elijah walked straight to the watch counter, just like last time. Then he turned and addressed the staff and the cameras. A few days ago, I stood here and was told to leave because of how I looked. Today, I stand here as myself. The question is, why should that change how I'm treated? He looked at everyone in the store. Bias isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in who we ignore, who we doubt, who we welcome, and who we push away. He paused. I built this company to serve people, all people, not just the ones who look like they belong in a fashion magazine. The film crew captured every word. When the footage aired the next evening, it went viral. On social media, people shared their own stories. Some said, "That happened to me too." Others said, "Finally, someone in power is doing something about it." The company released a public apology. Elijah made sure it was honest. No sugarcoating, no legal fluff. We failed, but we've seen our failure, and now we will rise better. But just as things seemed to be settling, something no one expected happened. That weekend, a woman walked into the boutique store with red, teary eyes and a manila folder in her hands. It was Linda Harrow. She looked nothing like the confident woman before. Her hair was messy. Her voice was quiet. "I came to apologize," she said, standing in front of Elijah, Marcus, and the staff. People froze. Customers looked on. Linda held out the folder with shaking hands. "And I have something to show you. Something I should have said a long time ago." Elijah took the folder. He opened it slowly. What he saw inside made him blink. There were old photos, emails, letters, and a secret about Linda's past that no one, not even Elijah, had seen coming. The store was silent as Elijah stared down at the folder in his hands. Behind him, Jasmine leaned closer. Marcus stood still, unsure whether to speak. The documents inside weren't just personal, they were explosive. On the first page was a photo of a much younger Linda Harrow, maybe in her early 20s. Her face was softer, her hair curly and wild. But it wasn't the photo that shocked Elijah. It was the man standing next to her. He was black, and on the back of the photo, in faded blue ink, were the words, "Me and Daddy, 1983. Elijah's brow furrowed. He flipped through the folder. There were more photos, school portraits, family cookout shots, even a birth certificate. Linda Harrow was biracial. She had hidden it her entire career. Behind the pictures were printouts of old emails and letters she had written but never sent. Most were addressed to former bosses at other companies. Letters that expressed fear of being found out, that if anyone knew she wasn't fully white, she'd lose everything. Jasmine looked at her, stunned. "Why would you hide that?" Linda's eyes welled up. Her voice trembled. "Because I was taught that passing was safety, that if I looked the part I'd be accepted. My mother, she was ashamed. She told me to blend in, to keep my head down, and for years I did." Elijah listened, silent. Linda continued, "I know it doesn't excuse what I did. I became me, the very thing I feared. I judged others to protect myself. I was cruel because I thought it made me stronger. But when I saw you that day, Elijah, I didn't see a CEO. I saw everything I tried to forget about myself." A long pause filled the space. Customers had stopped shopping to listen. Even the camera crew, though they kept filming, said nothing. Marcus broke the silence. "Why now?" Why come back? Because I saw myself on the news, she said, and I realized I can't keep running from who I am, and I couldn't let that be the last thing anyone remembered me for. Elijah slowly placed the folder on the counter. He didn't shout. He didn't condemn. Thank you, he said quietly, for telling the truth. It takes courage to face yourself. Linda blinked, surprised. But it doesn't erase the harm you caused, he added. And healing takes more than an apology. I understand, she nodded. That's why I'm here. I want to help. I want to use my story to teach others what hiding and hate can lead to. If you'll let me. Jasmine crossed her arms. You're asking to work with the same people you hurt. I'm asking to make it right, Linda said. There was another pause. Elijah looked to Marcus. What do you think? He asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think people deserve second chances, but not without doing the work. Elijah nodded. Then here's the deal. You won't be managing stores, but if you're serious about helping, you'll work with Jasmine, off the floor. You'll speak to employees, train them on bias and humility, and every story you tell will be yours to own. Linda nodded, tears on her cheeks. Thank you. As she left the store with Jasmine, Elijah turned to Marcus. You handled that with grace, he said. I just said what I wish someone had said to me a long time ago, Marcus replied. Later that week, Le Soirée launched a new initiative, the Mirror Project, a training program focused on recognizing unconscious bias in fashion and luxury retis. Linda was its first speaker. The footage from her apology aired nationwide. Some people criticized her, others praised her honesty, but what mattered most was the conversation it sparked. Luxury stores across the country began re-evaluating their practices. Some employees were let go, others were given second chances, just like Linda, but with expectations of growth and accountability. Meanwhile, Marcus's temporary promotion became permanent. Customers began noticing the difference. People who once avoided the store now felt welcome. The boutique wasn't just a symbol of style anymore, it was becoming a place of change. But just when things began to settle, a letter arrived at Luxoray headquarters addressed to Elijah. It was handwritten, no return address. Inside was a short message. You think changing one store means anything? We know who you are. We know where you came from. Stay in your place. Attached was a photo of Elijah's childhood home, taken recently. He stared at it for a long moment. Then he stood up. It was clear. Someone didn't want the change to continue, but Elijah had no plans to stop. The letter weighed heavily in Elijah's hand, its message cold and threatening. He sat at his desk staring at the photo of his childhood home. It had been taken from a distance, recently, judging by the autumn leaves scattered across the yard. The house, small and modest, was where he'd grown up with his mother and younger sister. It was also where he had first learned what dignity looked like, even in poverty. Now, someone was trying to use it as a weapon. Elijah's phone buzzed. It was Jasmine. You okay? She asked. You sound off. I got a letter, he said quietly. No return address. Someone took a picture of my old house, sent a threat. Her voice dropped. You think it's connected to the store? I think it's connected to the change we're making, he said, and someone doesn't like it. Do you want to report it? Elijah hesitated. Yes, but not just to police. I want our staff to know. This isn't just a campaign, it's a battle. We need to protect our people, but we can't retreat. By the end of the day, Elijah had informed the board and involved security. An internal memo was sent to store leadership urging vigilance and reaffirming Luxora's stance on accountability and inclusion, but not everyone agreed. At a private board meeting that evening, one of the founding investors, Robert Kessler, stood up. He was an older white man, sharply dressed and soft-spoken, but his words cut. "This brand was built on exclusivity," Kessler said. "You're turning it into a social experiment." Elijah met his gaze calmly. "It's always been a social experiment. We just never admitted it. The people you're protecting, like that woman Linda, she lied. She manipulated our systems, and you want to give her a stage?" "I want to give her responsibility," Elijah corrected. "There's a difference. She's bad for the brand." "No," Elijah said. "Bias is bad for the brand. Silence is bad for the brand. Ignoring who shops here and how we treat them is what will destroy us, not truth." Kessler didn't respond, but his jaw tightened. After the meeting, Jasmine caught up with Elijah in the hallway. "You think he sent the letter?" she asked. "I think he wants me to doubt myself," Elijah said. "But I won't." Meanwhile, at the flagship boutique store, Marcus had started his first full week as assistant manager. The energy in the store had changed. Staff were more alert, more considerate, more human. Some customers noticed. Others still whispered judgments when people walked in wearing hoodies or sneakers. But Marcus had begun speaking up, kindly, firmly. Then, one afternoon, a girl came in alone. She looked about 16, nervous but curious. She wore a handmade dress and sneakers with holes. Her name was Tasha. "Can I help you?" Marcus asked, smiling. She blinked, unsure if he meant it. I just wanted to look around," she said. "Of course," he nodded. "You're welcome to." She walked around quietly. Then she stopped at a pair of sunglasses behind glass. "They're beautiful," she whispered. "They are," Marcus said. "Would you like to try them on?" She looked shocked. "Really?" He opened the case and gently handed them to her. She placed them on and looked in the mirror. For a moment, she didn't say a word. Then tears welled up in her eyes. "No one's ever treated me like I belonged," she said softly. "You do belong," Marcus said. "Never forget that." The interaction went viral. Another moment caught on the store's new in-house video log, where positive interactions were being recorded to rebuild public trust. That night, Elijah watched the clip from his laptop and smiled. "This is the real luxury," he said to himself, "seeing someone." But just as he closed the screen, his phone buzzed again. A text. No name. "That girl? She doesn't belong. Stop pretending they do." Attached was a photo of Marcus, leaving the store after hours. Elijah stood, anger and concern building inside him. This was no longer about a single act of racism. Someone was watching, tracking, trying to intimidate. He called security. He called Jasmine. "We're being targeted," he told her, "and it's getting closer." But neither of them knew just how close it already was. The next morning, Marcus arrived early to open the store. As he unlocked the front entrance, he noticed a strange package resting against the door. No label. No note. He picked it up carefully and carried it inside. Just as he was about to open it, the security guard stepped in. "Wait," the guard said, eyes narrowing. "Let me handle that." The guard took the box out to the alley and called the bomb squad. The package was later revealed to be a hoax, filled with broken glass, a dead phone, and a single word scrawled on a piece of cardboard. Enough. Police launched a formal investigation. The media caught wind of the story. Speculation grew, but so did support. Messages from around the country poured in. Customers, former employees, activists, and allies, all vowing to stand with Luxor's new mission. Some even showed up at stores in solidarity. Elijah addressed the public the next day. "We will not stop. We will not hide. We will not let fear win." But just as he stepped off the stage, Jasmine rushed toward him with her phone in hand. "You need to see this," she said, breathless. A video had just leaked, security footage, grainy, clearly from one of Luxor's internal systems. It showed Elijah in the boutique store from that very first day, the day Linda kicked him out. But the clip had been edited, twisted, to make it seem like Elijah had been aggressive, even threatening, and it had just been posted online by an anonymous account. Beneath the video, the caption read, "Luxor lies. CEO attacks staff, plays victim." Elijah's heart dropped. The backlash was coming. The fallout was immediate. Within hours of the doctored video's release, online trolls flooded Luxor's social media pages. Comment sections erupted with claims that Elijah had staged the incident. Some called for a boycott, others questioned his credibility, saying he had manipulated the situation for sympathy or attention. Elijah sat in his office, surrounded by silence. Not even the city traffic outside could distract him from the storm brewing on every screen. Jasmine stood beside him, arms folded, eyes narrowed. "Whoever posted that knew exactly what they were doing," she said. "They cut out your question, Linda's insults, everything. They flipped the narrative." "It's not just about me anymore," Elijah replied. "They're trying to scare anyone who speaks out." He opened his laptop and played the full, unedited footage. It was still saved in the company's archives, time-stamped and secure. The contrast was undeniable. Elijah had remained composed the entire time. The video now circulating online was a deliberate smear. "We need to get ahead of this," Jasmine said. "Release the real footage. Set the record straight." Elijah nodded. "Yes, but I want more than just a rebuttal. I want people to see the pattern. This isn't a single mistake. It's a mirror." Within an hour, the Luxor communications team went to work. The full video was released with a detailed timeline, security logs, and a statement from multiple employees confirming the truth of what happened. The message was simple. This is what racial bias looks like, not just in how we're treated, but in how the truth is buried. But Elijah didn't stop there. He held a live-stream press conference the next morning. Behind him stood Marcus, Jasmine, and several frontline employees of all backgrounds. "Someone tried to rewrite the truth," Elijah began. "They tried to weaponize perception, but here's what they didn't count on: documentation, unity, and purpose." He shared not just his experience, but stories from other employees and customers who had faced similar mistreatment, stories that had, until now, gone unheard. Then, he did something unexpected. He invited Linda Harrow, the former regional director, to speak. The audience was stunned. Even Jasmine's eyebrows rose in surprise. Linda stepped forward, clearly shaken. She didn't wear luxury clothes. Her makeup was minimal. Her voice trembled at first. "I was wrong," she said. "Not just in what I did to Mr. Brooks, but in how I judge people every day without even thinking. That kind of bias doesn't just harm others, it blinds you. I thought I was protecting the brand, but I was protecting prejudice." She paused, breathing deeply. "I can't undo what I did, but I can face it and help others see it too." The room was silent. Some were moved, others skeptical. But Elijah turned to her and said, "That's what accountability looks like. Not perfection, not performance, just honesty and a willingness to change." Later that night, Elijah received another anonymous message. But this time, it wasn't a threat. It was a confession. "I work in your company. I saw what they did to you. I saw them edit the footage. I stayed quiet because I was afraid, but I want to come forward." Attached was a file, internal emails, names, dates, instructions on how the video had been altered and by whom. Elijah and Jasmine reviewed the evidence carefully. It wasn't just some online troll. It was an internal conspiracy, led by none other than Robert Kessler, the board member who had objected to Elijah's reforms, the same man who said, "You're turning this brand into a social experiment." He had orchestrated the entire smear campaign, including paying a digital media firm to alter and leak the footage. Elijah closed the laptop. "It's time," he said. The next board meeting was called that weekend. Cameras were present, so were shareholders. Elijah stood at the front and laid out every piece of evidence: emails, timestamps, voice messages. He left no doubt. Then he turned to Kessler. "You tried to silence me," Elijah said. "You tried to weaponize fear, but you forgot something. We own this truth now." Kessler tried to deny it, but it was too late. The board voted unanimously. Kessler was removed permanently. An internal investigation followed to address any other collaborators. Elijah made it clear this wasn't revenge, this was reform. By the end of the week, Luxoray had launched a new equity initiative. Not just policies, but store audits, racial bias training, and accountability dashboards made public for all to see. The boutique store became a flagship for inclusion. Tasha, the young girl in the handmade dress, was later invited to speak at a youth empowerment event sponsored by Luxoray. Marcus was officially promoted to store manager. And Linda? She joined a nonprofit focused on workplace equity, using her experience as a cautionary tale. As for Elijah, he sat down one evening, opened his journal, and wrote, "Change doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with courage, with a mirror, with one person refusing to stay silent." Outside his window, the city moved on. But inside that boutique store, in every Luxoray location, something had shifted. Not just a new policy, a new culture, a new standard. And for once, it was built not on fear, but on truth.